therapist say everything's gonna be alright.
The following is paid for by IMIC Incorporated.
The Cure with Aimee Cabo is brought to you by IMIC Research. Life can bring many difficult situations: domestic violence, addictions, poverty, and even sexual abuse by your loved ones. Welcome, Aimee Cabo and The Cure.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. This is The Cure, and I'm your host, Aimee Cabo. This is The Biz, 880 AM The Biz. We have today Dr. Boris Nikolov and a very special guest. But first, for those who are just listening to this radio show for the first time, I want to let you know that this is a show that deals with trauma and anybody who's suffering basically from anything, and ways that we can help one another and ways that we can get better. Actually, I wanted to create a platform where survivors can learn from one another and have periodically professionals in the field, testimonials, inspirational speeches, and uplifting songs. I want you all to know that we're all successful stories, because all that's happened in the past, it's just that. It's in the past. Being here and now means that we have so many more chances to rewrite history. And we can empower one another to let go by providing transparency, reaching closer to the last phase of our recovery, which is acceptance, and hopefully slowing down the vicious cycle. I believe that we can redefine our thoughts when we turn to prayer and seek God. Trust me, everything will fall into place. Eventually, our eyes are opened, replacing negative coping skills with healthy ones. There is always a solution if you believe, because for me, love was my answer to many of my problems. But ultimately, God was my only cure. I want you guys all to welcome Catherine Carrigan. She takes a holistic approach to promote healthy living and also helps with people who are suffering from depression to try to heal in a holistic approach. How are you, Catherine? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, Aimee, thank you so much for being here. And for our audience, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and I honor you on your journey.
Thank you so much. And also we have Dr. Boris Nikolov with us. So, Karen, let me ask you something. I know that you are an author, a best-selling author, and you've written many books. And now the way that I know of you is through a podcast. You have a podcast. And could you explain to those that are listening what it is that you talk about, what methods you have for healing? Because my belief is that no one solution works for everyone. We all have different ideas and we can help one another. And I want to widen the opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, my name is Catherine Carrigan, and that's Catherine with a C. The last name is Carrigan. And I'm a medical intuitive healer, which basically means that I use natural healing to empower people to get better. I am the host of the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, and I'm the author of 8 books, including 6 Amazon #1 bestsellers. And, on a personal level, I really am so in awe of Aimee and what you all are talking about here as well, because years ago, I spent 2 years in a support group for battered women. So I know what you all have to go through because I've been through it myself. And I basically, if there's a way to treat things naturally, that's what I do. I have clients who are all over the world. I talk to people by phone, Skype, and Zoom video conference and help people understand what's going on all 5 levels: physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and also talk to you about what will work to get better.
So you're more like a life coach. You help people with their emotions and how to basically, because I believe it's a combination of things. It's not just one thing that works. Like you mentioned, many different things that come together for someone to feel better.
I have 26 years full-time experience in natural healing. I am a trained medical intuitive, which basically means that I read people. I use my intuition. I read your physical body, your energy body, your emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. So I read what's actually going on with people, and then I make specific recommendations about what will work to make you better. I do healing work with people all over the world to clear. So it's not just, I do talk to you because I talk about what's going on and what's really going on all the levels. But I talk to health coaches all the time who really don't know what's going on with people. And I just spoke this morning with a health coach in London. So a better way to think of it is like I'm a little detective who helps people figure out why they're not getting better. And I want to say that abuse has a very profound effect with people. You know, if you've been abused, and even if you were abused 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, if you haven't done the work to clear the abuse out of your whole mind, body, and spirit, it can have profound detrimental effects on your health, even today. So it's very important that you not only get out of the abusive situation, but you also heal yourself to recover from the abuse.
Yes, I know what that's like. I went through many years of abuse. I had actually a lot of difficult challenges, I would say, for 25 years, and it actually took me a long time. And I believe, actually, that I went through so many things just so that more people can relate to me. And there isn't someone that can say, well, she didn't go through this, or she doesn't know about this. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I can help you. My secret was, because trust me, I tried everything from medications to therapy to self-medication. And I fumbled, I failed, I tried, I always prayed, but it wasn't until I really got close to God and I took Him seriously, where I made it a point to pray every day. And you know what happens when you pray every day? Hey, something's got to give. So eventually, yes, everything changed for me. My point of view, I started appreciating everything that I normally didn't appreciate before. I noticed that I had so many blessings, and now I even notice small blessings. Those things you say, oh, I'm so lucky, oh, what good luck. I consider it a blessing. And I've come to realize that now I'm as normal can be, according to me. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that the spiritual body is we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And if you really want to transform yourself to get closer to God, like Aimee is talking about, is very profoundly transformative. And Aimee, you're living proof in your own life that anything can be healed. You're an amazing person. And I really honor your journey and the message that you share with others.
With God, anything's possible. I truly believe. You know what's helped me a lot in life? It's always keeping a positive point of view. Always thinking the best of things. I always knew, no matter what I was going through, no matter how scary life went, no matter how scary life became, I knew that things would get better. I knew that God was always with me. I knew that we weren't destined to suffer. And believe me, even though I consider that I have turned out very well and I'm great, we're still human. I still have challenges. I'm not perfect. I do have nightmares, and I wake up feeling bad, that I'm soon distracted soon after the kids wake up and I think of something else, or I entertain myself listening to music, or sometimes I even brainwash myself. Did you know that I learned that you can brainwash yourself through repetition? You repeat things enough times and you believe it. I have to tell you, when I did not learn my positive coping skills, I was always putting myself down, very hard on myself, always telling myself negative things like I'm dumb, I'm not good enough, I don't know how to do this, and that just worked further on my low self-esteem, and that wasn't helping me. But you know what? Incentive helps. It's hard to do it alone. It's good to know that there is a God, that even though you may feel alone, there's a God that loves you. And not only that, but he has your best interests at heart. And not only that, he's perfect. And not only that, he's all powerful. And not only that, he's the source of your happiness, your serenity. He gives you purpose, because in the end, what is it? You get closer to God, and eventually you join him in heaven. So that's incentive, because would someone fight a war if it wasn't that they were defending a country? Or would somebody even work a job really hard if they weren't getting paid? Incentive helps. It helps to know that there is a God. But there is many different things. I heard yesterday on Oz that exercise is important, but more important is what you eat. You are what you eat. So it's a combination of things. It's about living life right. It's about noticing your blessings. It's about being grateful. It's about letting others be there for you and forgiving yourself. You're listening to The Cure. This is Aimee Cabo on 880 AM The Biz every Friday, 2 to 2:50. This is Eddie James, Worship at the Sea.
Water you turn into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. Into the darkness you shine. And out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Stay with it. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God, yeah. Our God is greater. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God, yeah. Our God. Water you turn into wine. And you open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. Hey, into the darkness you shine. And out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. Hey, none like you. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God. Our God is greater. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer. Awesome in power. Awesome in power. Our God. Our God, yeah. Our God is greater. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? Oh, then what can stand? Then what can stand against? Oh, we declare today that our God is greater. Yeah.
Life can bring many difficult situations: domestic violence, addictions, poverty, and even sexual abuse by your loved ones. The issue is not stay there, but to overcome all obstacles and show that with the love of God, your husband, and your family, you can succeed. Love is the answer, God is the cure, reveals from a very sincere and honest position Aimee Cabo's life, a warrior who didn't give up and achieved the dream of her life. You can get to know more about her and her story on www.godisthecure.com or buying her book on Amazon.com. And now we continue with Aimee Cabo and The Cure on 880 The Biz.
Welcome back to the show. For those that are just tuning in, this is The Cure, and I'm your host, Aimee Cabo, on 880 The Biz. Today I am joined by Dr. Boris Nikolov and Catherine Carrigan, who is a holistic coach. And we were talking about holistic approaches, and I was explaining that I did try everything. Exercise, therapy, medication, everything. And ultimately, the only thing that actually worked for me was turning to God, was turning to prayer, because my behaviors changed. I learned that I don't always have to be right. I don't have to win every argument. And if something made me angry, hey, maybe that's the devil. I'm not going to let him win. Hey, that's my competitive spirit. You know, you can't stop things from happening. Things will happen. But you can make the best out of it. You can rationalize by thinking something positive. If it's raining, say, oh goodness, it's raining, but you think, oh, well, at least the trees are getting their nourishment, and that's important. Thank God it's not too dry. Hope for the best. Always. Don't think of the worst scenario. You've spent your time better thinking of the best. Even if you're wrong at the end, okay, you made a mistake. But if you think of the worst scenario, then you spent your time worrying and you spent your time miserable. So think of the best. And all these things I learned because actually when I seek God, He provided grace. And the idea of being a victim was no longer an appealing thought, but the realization of being a survivor and becoming a beacon of light was the greater driving force. I noticed that as much as I didn't love myself at one point, that if God loves me, I must be worthy of love. We are all created equal under God's eyes. Therefore, I learned that I should love myself and grow to love in others. And eventually, my reactions normalized when I truly learned to love others. But Boris had some questions for you, Catherine.
Oh, yes. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Boris. How are you today?
Good, good. And you, thank you for coming. I'm not very familiar with the term medical intuitive healer, but it sounds great. I mean, we read a lot about that, and appears that you are helping a lot of people. And myself as a doctor sometimes feel that the traditional medicine is not really helping a lot. So what is your...
Well, so first of all, my father is a doctor, my brother's a doctor, my uncle was a doctor, my grandfather was a doctor, my great-grandfather was a doctor. I have a great...
And your friend next door.
And my friend next door, exactly. I just, I have a great respect for the medical community. A person who was a real famous medical intuitive a lot of people have heard about was Edgar Cayce. And Edgar Cayce was a very spiritual person. He read the Bible multiple times. I myself do all my work prayerfully. I begin my day every day with prayer and meditation. And so, when you look at the body, and again, keeping in mind that I have this great respect for medical doctors and all that they provide for us and all the hard work and training that they go through to become a doctor. But the way that I look at the body, which is a little different from a traditional medical doctor, is I see that there's 5 layers of us. There's the physical body, you know what that is. There's the energy body, which includes your chakras, your breath, and your acupuncture system. There's the emotional body, which is the largest part of anyone. There's your mind, which is your story, your thoughts, and your beliefs. And then finally, there is your spiritual body, which is your soul. And you are a soul. You're having your soul who's having a human experience. And a lot of times that the challenges that we face are directly lead us into our soul purpose. So when I do a medical intuitive reading, I'm reading all 5 levels. And because everything is always happening all the time on all 5 levels. So if you have a disease or an illness, it begins in the energy of the body and comes into the physical. And when we heal, you've got to push it out through the physical body, through the energy, through the emotions, through your mind, through the spiritual. So that's in a nutshell
That is
about
super interesting.
I have to say it is very interesting to me too. It is really interesting because we treat the physical body and we think and expect that we're going to get great results, and that's not always the case.
Yes, because there's all these things. So when you realize that everything's happening all the time, not just your physical body, but energetically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, then when you work on all 5 levels, then you supercharge your healing. You get better much, much faster.
Right.
And you're addressing all aspects of what's really going on with you.
Wow, this is really seems like a better approach. So why we're not doing that more often? I mean, do you have did you train for that?
Absolutely. I've done this full time for 26 years. I have very extensive training. I went to Brown University. I was Phi Beta Kappa, and then I spent the past 26 years learning multiple modalities in natural healing. But it actually is the future. Yeah. I just got off the phone this afternoon with a medical doctor, and he has a practice where he trains other doctors to take a holistic approach when they're working with people. And one of his premises is that the old system of health that we have in this country is really broken. So it's basically a disease-based process where something happens, you go to the doctor, and they treat your toe or your heart or your lungs rather than looking at a whole whole person.
Right.
So in fact, there are people who are realizing, we need to do this better. We need to do this better for the individuals, and we need to do this better for our society.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It just sometimes, I guess, there is not a lot of time and a lot of other factors come into mind.
Well, what I want to know is exactly how do you re-energize yourself? Let's say for those who are depressed or suffering, because I have to tell you, there are times where you just don't feel well. There's much you can do about it. And for me, I just accept it because I've gotten to a point that it's not important anymore how I feel. I realize I don't have to feel okay all the time, and it's not important. I tend to handle things better. The things that used to bother me don't bother me so much anymore. And it's because I've changed my behavior. I learned that I am a great influence in my family. If I am weak or if I'm scared or if I'm upset, it reflects on my children and my husband. So I tread lightly. I try not to display any fear or weakness, and I try to prioritize peace at home. But that's what I wanted to know. How do you get there? How do you re-energize your energy if you don't, if you're not even willing to do these things?
Okay. Well, first of all, you bring up several really great points, Aimee. One of which is that it's not a selfish thing to take care of yourself. Because if you think about you, when you take better care of you, then you're a better mother, father, sister, brother, worker, boss, everything on every level. Now, one of my 8 books is called Unlimited Energy Now, and it's about how to rebuild your energy. The most common complaint that I hear among my new clients is actually exhaustion. But then you also bring up another important point, Aimee, which is willingness. So a lot of times I have clients and they've been to 30 doctors, but they're still unwell. So there's 25 different ways that people can be addicted to being in pain. These are called secondary gains or payoffs. So sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I actually willing to do whatever it takes to get better? Or are there secondary gains that I get by remaining sick or overweight or in victimhood? And as you know, Aimee...
Or living in filth.
Or living in filth. So, as you know, it takes tremendous strength and courage to overcome from something, as traumatic as domestic abuse. So part of what we have to do is take our power back. And how do you do that? You set your intention to realize that you're an important person. Even if you don't know what your soul purpose is yet, one of the things that you can do to identify your soul purpose is to ask yourself, what challenges have I faced in my life so far?
And what have I overcome? But don't put yourself down for your shortcomings.
Absolutely. One of the things that I talk to people about is, let's say you're in a state of chronic illness or chronic depression. Well, sit there every morning and make a list of everything you've overcome. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you're not, you haven't overcome absolutely all the challenges yet. But if you look, you'll find things that you've done. Maybe you stopped smoking. Maybe you went to college. Maybe you raised a child. Maybe you're a single mother. So notice the ways that you've won. Whenever I start working with people, I always start by asking them, what have you done right?
Focus on your strengths and not your weaknesses.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So, but I'll do healing work to remove or release the secondary gains, the payoff. But you have to also understand that if you're tired all the time, fatigue is the number one symptom of stress.
Yes.
So if you're tired all the time, you have to ask yourself, okay, am I too stressed? And maybe you can't release all the stress in your life right now, but you can do what I call the 2% solution, which is to say, okay, how can I make my life 2% easier? Maybe you can take an easier way home. Maybe you can ask a friend or a loved one to help you with childcare. Maybe you can drink a little bit more water or eat a little better.
Or surround yourself with positive influences and not negative ones.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the reasons it's so important to have a spiritual foundation is that if you go to a church or a mosque or a synagogue once a week, more than likely you're going to be around other people doing positive things, thinking positive thoughts, realizing that, that there is a higher power, that there is a God who's in charge, who's taking care of you, and that you are loved every moment of every day. If you go to my website, CatherineCarrigan.com, I have actual photographs of angels. Nice. And people are like, yeah, whatever. Then you go see, it's like, oh my God, there's angels. So believe me, if you're listening to this podcast, this radio show, you have angels. Your angels are your spiritual guides. They're with you 24/7, every moment of every day. They love you. They've been with you your whole life. You can learn to talk to your angels and work with your angels. And as you work with when you learn how to talk to your angels, you'll never feel lonely ever again.
Wow, there's so many things that you have to tap into. And really, we don't use our entire brain. We only use a small percentage of our brain. But there has to come a point in time where you just, even though you don't feel like doing anything, force yourself to do it. Because laying in bed and not doing anything and allowing things to get out of control is not going to make you feel better. And the only person that can make you feel better is yourself. You have to do it for yourself. Nobody can make you happy.
And the angel.
And you can't depend on
Yes.
anything to make you happy. You have to find ways to make yourself happy. For example, if your house is filthy, you clean it. Now you feel better. Light some candles. They smell good. Play some music. Talk to an encouraging friend. Try to do positive things. You can pull yourself out. A lot of us don't give ourselves the credit that we should.
That's true.
Those who are just tuning in, this is 880 AM The Biz. You're listening to The Cure. I'm your host, Aimee Cabo. We've opened up the lines. Our number is 305-541-2350. Again, that's 305-541-2350. I'm here with Catherine Carrigan, with Dr. Boris Nikolov. If you'd like to call, share your story, or ask any questions, please stay with us.
While the world looks upon me as I struggle alone, and they say I have nothing, but they are so wrong. In my heart I'm rejoicing, how I wish they could see. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. 'Cause there's a roof up above me, I've a good place to sleep, and there's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. I know I'm not wealthy, and these clothes, they're not new, and I don't have much money, but Lord, I have you, and that's all that matters, though the world may not see. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Y'all sing it with me. 'Cause there's a roof up above me, I've a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. And I thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. There's a roof up above. I have a good place to sleep. I have a good place to sleep. There's food on my table. There's food on my table. Shoes on my feet. And shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. And I thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. Sing it one more time. There's a roof. There's a roof up above me. I've a good place to sleep. There's food on my table and shoes on my feet. You gave me your love, Lord, and a fine family. And I thank you,
difficult situations: domestic violence, addictions, poverty, and even sexual abuse by your loved ones. The issue is not stay there, but to overcome all obstacles and show that with the love of God, your husband, and your family, you can succeed. Love is the answer, God is the cure, reveals from a very sincere and honest position Aimee Cabo's life, a warrior who didn't give up and achieved the dream of her life. You can get to know more about her and her story on www.godisthecure.com or buying her book on Amazon.com. And now we continue with Aimee Cabo and The Cure on 880 The Biz.
Welcome back to the show. You're listening to 8880 AM The Biz. This is The Cure. I'm your host, Aimee Cabo, and this is a show that deals with trauma or anybody suffering and methods for healing, for recovery. And we welcome different people that could share their stories or have different testimonials. And I know that I enjoyed that song that just played. And I have to tell you the most important thing that I want everyone to know, that if you do read my book, you'll see that I went through incredible things, a lot of things, and you wouldn't believe who I am today. And of all that I've been through, the way that I'm blessed today, I mean, my past, it's nothing compared to how happy and blessed I am today. And I have my sad moments. I have my hard moments. I have challenging moments. But they don't compare to the precious moments that I share with my family. Now we're joined by Catherine Carrigan and Dr. Boris Nikolov. Guys, are you still with me?
Hello.
Okay, so tell me, Catherine, what is really the secret to living in peace? Because a lot of us are tortured by the way that we think. If we think negative, if we have negative memories, I worry for others because I see the suffering, I read it, and I've researched it, and I see it in myself. I know what it's like. And for me, it was God. It really was. But I've learned a lot of things. There's a psychologist that said the way that you can feel better, even people that were suicidal, was to give yourself more responsibilities. And the more responsibilities you gave yourself, and every time you accomplished a responsibility, then you would feel better about yourself, because we are creatures that really want to have meaning. We want to have a purpose. We want to find a meaning in life.
Well, you asked a very important question, which is how can we achieve inner peace? And I think, Aimee, that one of the most effective and profound ways to heal yourself is to start with forgiveness. Now, you may need, and I believe that the most important person to forgive is actually yourself. Now, if you think about forgiveness, all the spiritual texts tell us that we should forgive people, but most people really don't know how to do that. So when you forgive, you let go of the judgment, you let go of the bitterness, you let go of the resentment, because a lot of times we really don't know why things happened. And we have to let go of the idea that we know best. God, in fact, does know best. So when you forgive, you know you're done with forgiveness when you can think of the person or situation and you feel totally neutral about it. So if I say, I went to the store yesterday, there's no emotion attached to that. So many times we have to go through layers and layers of forgiveness. But again, I believe that the person you need to start forgiving first is actually yourself. You may need to forgive yourself for putting yourself in a situation that caused you or your family harm. And as you pray for forgiveness, and if you don't feel that you're strong enough to forgive, pray and ask for strength to forgive. Now, when you do forgive, that doesn't mean that you now feel that what happened was okay or it was right or it was good. What it means is that you're letting go and letting God. And the most powerful healing that you can ever do is to let go and let God. When you let go and allow God to heal you, then miracles truly happen. But again, to find peace, you start with forgiveness. And even if it takes you, 7 years, there's that wonderful parable in the Bible about, how many times should I forgive my neighbor? And the real answer is, how many times should you forgive? It's
as many
endless.
times as it takes.
As many times as it takes. And again, as you let go of the forgiveness, you let go of the judgment, the bitterness, the resentment, and it allows you to find that peace within yourself.
I have to tell you, though, I know it's not that easy because I felt like I was a horrible person. Even though my husband would tell me otherwise, I felt like I was a horrible person for the longest time. It wasn't enough to do what was expected of me, my role as a mother and my role as a wife and my role as a friend and my role as a sister, but I wanted to do more. I was very hard on myself, and what I did was never good enough. And it wasn't until I wrote my book that I started to heal and said, wait a second, if I can do something selfless like this, because trust me, I'm a very private person, and the last thing in the world I wanted to do was put my life out there, which I'm not very proud of. So it was difficult, but I knew that if I could be honest and I could put my life out there, then I can empower others and encourage others to speak, to talk about it, to let go. Because when you can talk about it and you don't have a problem talking about it or writing it down, then in a way you've accepted it. You're okay with it. And it's true. It's not that you don't realize the seriousness. And for me, forgiving was forgiving myself for not being good enough, for not being perfect. And my mother was a narcissist, so I get that I felt like I had to be perfect. But for me, that was the forgiveness. I just realized that I had to forgive myself because God loves us and He forgives us. And He forgives us as many times as it takes. And it's taught me to forgive others and not forget. But there's a very interesting thing you said, that you forgive yourself for putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I have to tell you, one thing that haunts me till this day was my forced abortion. I did not know that being with this maverick attorney for 3 years would end up in a pregnancy that would kick me out of the house and place my daughter and I on the streets. And even though I tried everything, I had no help. And yes, we were going hungry. But what broke the camel's back was when he showed me emotion, that the minute that child be born, he would remove her from me. I was already had like 8 years of custody battles, really bad ones. And I thought, I lose both children. If I lose one, because he's a maverick attorney, then that sets the stage to lose the other one. And still, to this day, I believe I could have done something better. But the other day I saw, because now abortion is a big theme, and I saw on TV a priest talk about abortion. And they were talking about women that are bored. And he said, it's never the mother's fault. And I never heard anyone say that. It's not the mother's fault. So, maybe it wasn't our fault to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. Maybe the predators picked us out, could see the weakness in us,
of course it's
could
not fault.
see the insecurity, could see that this is an opportunity. Like opportunists, they see it and they take advantage.
Yes, and you were going to say something?
Yes, I was just saying, I think it's not the fault of the person that went in through a difficult situation, but they just feel that way, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is that when a person is abused, they tend to feel very bad about themselves. They feel like they don't deserve anything, and they self-sabotage. Subconsciously, they do go to bad places or hang around the wrong people. And it's not, I don't know why that is, but it's almost as if the person hates themselves so much, they just don't care anymore.
Yes. Well, part of what you're talking about, Aimee, is healing your relationship with ourselves. Now, we all have a relationship with ourselves, just like you have a relationship with your mother or father or brother or sister or your spouse. And we can either have a healthy relationship with ourselves or not a healthy relationship with ourselves. Well, how do you know if you have a healthy relationship with yourself?
Pretend God is always around.
If you can be kind and compassionate to yourself and forgiving to yourself and forgive your mistakes and forgive and to accept that you don't have to be perfect for God to love you, then you have a healthy relationship with yourself. So there's a lot of different relationships we can have with ourselves. One relationship is poor me. When you're stuck in victim mentality, you're in poor me. And one of the trouble with poor me is when that's your reality and that's your relationship with yourself, then you keep recreating situations where you're victimized, where you're impoverished, where things are always going wrong with you. A better way is to shift it to be lucky me. Another unhealthy relationship is the intimidator, where you're bullying yourself, and constantly beating up on yourself. And many people who've been abused, they've internalized the abuse. And when their abusers are not there to abuse them any longer, they simply abuse themselves. So you have to realize and recognize when you're abusing yourself. You can abuse yourself with food, drugs, or alcohol, or over-exercising, or overworking. And again, recognize that you are abusing yourself and ask yourself, how can I be kinder and more compassionate and more forgiving to myself? Another drama that people go through is being the interrogator. So the interrogator, when you're the interrogator with yourself, you're always probing and looking for what's wrong. You're kind of a smart aleck. Kind of like, why haven't you solved this problem already? Why are you still struggling? Why don't you have money yet? Why are you still overweight? Why are you still unhappy? And again, what you find is beating up on yourself simply doesn't work. And at the end of the day, when you really want to heal, you have to adopt an attitude of kindness and compassion with yourself.
And with those who suffer from PTSD, one of the issues a lot is anger, and to forgive themselves for being angry, because you feel like an ogre and you start to hate yourself. I know that. I had those times where I had to work on my anger, and I hated it. My mother always screamed, and I did not want to scream. I did not want to be that person. And I got to a point that through prayer, I learned to control it. That when I get angry, I just calm myself down. I just brainwash myself. I tell myself I'm strong enough. I'm better than this. This is the devil. He's not going to win. I can do this. This is nothing. This is just manipulation. No problem. And I say that enough times. Trust me, I will eventually believe it. But unfortunately, guys, we've reached another end of the show. And thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us today. And Boris Nikolov, you're a sweetheart. You're always here. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You're listening to The Cure. I'm your host, Aimee Cabo. This is 880 The Biz.
I'm giving everything I got. God knows I know it's not enough.